A special good afternoon. Welcome to a press conference of the Barbados Union of Teachers and the Barbados Secondary Teachers Union. First, speaking on behalf of BSTU, President, Sister Mary Redmond.
Good evening. On the 12th of March 2021, both the BSTU and the BUT attended a meeting with the Minister of Education at which both unions indicated that given the difficulties of online teaching, the undisputed imperfections and the deficiencies that existed, even though they exist, we could not at this point in time return to face-to-face instruction. This was the feeling of the membership of both unions, as both unions met their members beforehand and took these considerations back to the ministry. The considerations on the 12th of March, where we indicated our position, have not changed in any fundamental way at this time. This ongoing second wave of COVID infection highlights how easily our resources can be overwhelmed to the detriment of all categories of persons in our society. The exponential increases in cases, the uptick in deaths, and the time that it is taking to bring our numbers into a position of sustained decline indicate that the projected time frame for an impending reopening of school, effective the 23rd of March today, for some classes is way too soon. When we made our submissions to the ministry, it was with the understanding, as they stated, that they would engage in discussion, they would get back to us, consult with us further, and that is what we were expecting. Instead, yesterday we received 2 circulars, and those circulars have caused great concern among our membership. One of those circulars indicated that the COVID monitoring unit had confirmed that the secondary schools are ready to receive students for instruction, and that the inspections they carried out were focused primarily on risk factors and measures to mitigate those risks. One circular indicated that SBA sessions and labs can commence in schools from today, the 23rd of March. And there have been no meetings with the unions or the teachers to explain these risks, to indicate how they should be mitigated before these classes on any level resume. There's a clear understanding on our part that the COVID-19 unit can inspect and declare a physical building ready for reopening. We, however, need to consider the many other aspects that are equal to or of even greater importance that impact of the readiness of a school for safe reopening and operation in our present circumstances. And so, we have the following questions to the Ministry of Education. Will random rapid testing be done on students in the system before they return to the classroom? With return to classes, will it be done on a regular basis for students and others in schools, as now operates in most first world societies where students are back in school? How many children have been tested positive since the second wave of COVID-19 started in December? This is a question that we asked on the 12th, and we have received no answer as yet. Is it near the almost 200 that was rumored almost 2 weeks ago? Has the positivity rate in children begun to fall as yet? If so, has it fallen consistently enough for a safe return to school? What is that rate? How prevalent is the British variant of COVID in Barbados? This variant is known to be more virulent and to more readily infect children under 18 than previous variants. What special provisions are being put in place for students using the public transportation system? We know that is one of the biggest threats to the spread of the virus among students. How many of our children live in multi-generational households with vulnerable persons? Has the critical mass of vaccinated persons, which is normally stated to be at least 70%, been achieved to protect those vulnerable people in households and vice versa? What procedures and protocols have changed since school closed to deal with the present reality of ongoing community spread? Last time schools were closed, there was no community spread. Some first world countries, yes, have reopened schools, but with wide-ranging and very stringent health and safety measures to protect the users of school plans. In fact, some states in the USA have indicated that they cannot reopen schools yet because they don't have the funds or the resources to implement the necessary procedures that will ensure the safety of children and education workers. Do we have the necessary funds to consistently and properly implement the protocols necessary with community spread, like timely sanitization after use, etc.? Do we have enough ancillary staff in schools, and have they been retrained to deal with the situation of community spread and more virulent variants this time round? We know from our last experience that very quickly the protocols were dropped by the wayside on the last occasion. Were schools' safety and health committees included in the inspection tours of the COVID-19 unit? If not, why not? Do teachers not need to be fully vaccinated to protect them and the students before a return to class, with the requisite time after the vaccines to build immunity? What is the percentage of teachers in the system with comorbidities and therefore at risk? Should there not be more widespread random testing throughout Barbadian communities, as advised by the Chief Medical Officer and BAMP, to determine the realistic degree of spread or of reduction in positivity rate in the wider society? Should this not be done before any consideration of a safe return to school? Know their environment better than the political directorate, the technocrats, and most parents. They know the struggle with large classrooms, working in schools with existing environmental challenges, and the issues they must anticipate from nursery to secondary level once face-to-face classes resume. We also understand and appreciate the other factors that provide a seemingly compelling argument for an urgent return to school. We understand them, we know them. Not the least of which are the deficiencies of online instruction. We accept that. But these cannot supersede the realities of our wider context that threatens the safety and efficacy of a return to school. Are we as a society ready for the collateral damage and a third lockdown in such circumstances? Are parents willing to sacrifice the health and welfare of their children for examinations that can be deferred? The union asks too, how is it possible to be holding a mass meeting of school workers of potentially over 4,000 people in an enclosed air-conditioned space for an hour in the middle of the second wave of COVID with community spread? The unions do recognize that COVID will be around for some time to come, that there will be no quick return to safety as we have previously known it, and that our membership has to operate within this changed environment. Teachers are not averse to managed risk, and we always want what is best for our students. But neither the students nor education workers can be sacrificed at the table of economic, 11 plus, or CXC exit exams expediency. Taking all the prevailing circumstances into account, the BSTU cannot support the reopening of schools for face-to-face instruction at this time.
Okay, at this time you're going to hear from President of the Barbados Union of Teachers, Brother Pedro Shepherd.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let me begin by, first of all, supporting Teachers Union. I will try not to rehash what was said, but I will state clearly the Barbados Union of Teachers position. Once my position is placed, then I believe we can explore further and maybe answer any queries members might have. The Barbados Union of Teachers notes with interest that the Minister of Education has called a meeting of teachers at the Garvey Sobers Gymnasium. The union notes that this meeting is a face-to-face one. The union wonders the wisdom of such a meeting in a COVID environment, where the country is still experiencing community spread. Additionally, with a teaching complement of over 3,000, this move is really puzzling to the Barbados Union of Teachers. The union therefore asks the question, is it safe for such gatherings at this time? Are these members not being contrary to the current protocols? Is this meeting not contrary to the current protocols? The letter to teachers indicate that the meeting will simply be updating all teaching and non-teaching staff on discussions held with stakeholders and plans for the reopening of schools. Again, the union reminds its members that there was a meeting with teachers on 11th of March 2021, where your views were solicited and decisions were made. On March 12, 2021, the union met with the Ministry of Education, and the Teachers Union's position was clearly and succinctly outlined on the reopening of schools. At that meeting, the unions, the Barbados Association of Principals of Public Secondary Schools, the Association of School Principals of the Public Primary Schools, the Barbados Secondary Teachers Union, and the Barbados Union of Teachers did not support the reopening of school at this time because of the COVID-19 situation in the country. The union at that meeting also voiced its concerns about the consultations which the minister has been calling with teachers under the guise that not all teachers are union members. The union at that time pointed out that teachers are members of unions, some are not members of unions, some are members of more than one union, but that the unions are the representative body, and that all teachers, whether unionized or not, belong to the organizing unit. It is really a dangerous practice which will backfire, and once it backfires, then it can cause severe problems and serve to undermine the teachers' unions and the trade union movement. The minister did promise to get back to the unions' proposals on the reopening of schools, but it is noted that the route taken is to consult teachers. Or let me say consult teachers first. The union reminds its membership that it does not support this kind of behavior, which can only be deemed as disrespectful to the union. The union, in its meeting of March 12, 2021, had proposed that September 2021 seems to be a better time to fully reopen schools when it is likely that there could be improvements with the COVID-19 situation. The union said then that it would support some face-to-face classes for students taking examinations this year. The Barbados Secondary Schools entrance examination and CXC, only if the conditions improve and the protocols be upgraded. Additionally, the union does not support the return of special needs students because of the various challenges which are present. We spoke at length of the fact that the special needs students, to a large extent, have challenges with their immune systems, and we are aware that the COVID-19 attacks the immune system. So why are we, therefore, putting these students at risk? The union, therefore, reiterates its position that September will be a better option for the reopening of schools when teachers and other school staff would have had a chance to be fully vaccinated, to have both jabs, and to have a period after the second jab to build up what is considered immunity. The reopening of schools should not be done until it is absolutely safe to do so. And the BUT holds firm to that position, that schools shall not be reopened face-to-face fully until at least September, when teachers, ancillary staff, and other school personnel would have had their second jab, and the few weeks after the second jab for some kind of immunity or some level of immunity to kick in.
Okay, I want to thank both of you for joining us. We're just going to wait a moment, a short moment, to see if there are any questions or queries from the stream. Okay, one general question that has come up. Plain and simply, should teachers attend the meeting tomorrow?
Well,
That is something that the teachers will have to my mind, answer for themselves. They have to know their level of, their status of health, and their willingness to be exposed in an air-conditioned environment with many other persons. I can tell you that the officers of the BSTU will be attending online, not physically.
Okay, and from the UT?
The position of the Barbados Union of Teachers remains much the same. We already spoke to the issue of the industrial relations practice, where the minister finds it necessary to meet with membership before meeting with the members' representatives. And that is our position. We are not supporting a position where our membership is called to a meeting before the representative body of the membership is called.
Okay, I want to thank both of you for making this possible.
I have a little section that I want to read on deferral of exams, because I don't understand why she is not saying this to schools. There is an area of concern, a further area of concern for the BSTU, and this relates to the possibility of students being able to defer their CXC exit exams. And we are querying why there's not been an attempt by the Ministry of Education and school administrators to properly inform teachers, students, and parents of the possibility of students sitting CXC exit exams at CSEC and CAPE levels, so to defer, that the possibility exists for them to defer their examination dates until January 2021 or until May-June 2021. It was reported to the unions by the local registrar and the chief education officer that such provisions will be made for both levels, CSEC and CAPE, in January, where there will be a wider choice of CSEC subjects offered in January, and for the first time, CAPE subjects will also be offered in January. This is separate and apart from the May-June sitting. So persons doing CSEC and CAPE can defer until January or June. The negative effects of COVID on the teaching learning process is the fault of no one, not teachers, not students. And neither groups should be made to suffer or be disadvantaged by circumstances over which they have no control. An untimely return to the classroom will not in reality provide the time necessary for the adequate completion of syllabi to properly prepare most students to the level necessary to give of their best during these examinations in June, July. Further, it runs the risk of placing them in a position where they are unable to sit any examinations at all. Students have the option to defer with no penalty, financial or otherwise, to the student. Parents and teachers should be made fully aware of the process to exercise this option at this stage, since it is our understanding that the process should be completed by the 1st of May 2021.
Any closing statements from BUT?
Well, I would just say at this point that I know there are a number of persons who might be keen on finding out our position, why we are taking this particular position. But like I said in my most recent comment, it has to do with what we consider to be disrespect by the employer. And until we position ourselves to, let me say, earn the respect of the employer, they will continue to behave in this way. And I want to encourage teachers to take the advice of their unions. You pay unions to be your representative, and I think very often the unions are challenged because we offer advice to membership, and in some cases that advice is not taken. And the ministry is using the excuse that their members who are not teachers, members of the teaching profession who are not members of the two teachers unions, and so they are meeting with those persons. But yet, we still find a lot of the members of the two teachers unions attending those meetings, and that is posing a challenge. We saw that recently when there was the issue of the letter which spoke to going back for the common entrance face-to-face, and it spoke to going back to do the CXC preparation. The ministry's letter stated that it was said by the class 4 teachers and it was said by the teachers of the CXC and the CAPE and so on. And when we had our meeting with over 600 persons, not one was able to say that the letter coming from the ministry had any truth in it. So it looks then as though the ministry is making every effort to divide and rule in this regard.
Okay, once again, we want to thank both of you for making it possible for today's conference. Have a good day.